On today's show, how starting over starts with a new mindset on money. Part 3 of this week's series on financial planning for women with registered investment advisor and certified financial planner, Heather Coulter. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to InsMark, Life Specs, and Backroom Technician. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to the show, Heather.
Thank you so much.
Well, day 3 with Heather Coulter. We're talking about all things that are women in financing, and we're touching all these things, and we may come back later on and do a complete workshop on this because really we're just touching the basics here. Now, when we're talking about this, we're talking about new beginnings. Okay, I've went through I'm a widow, I'm past that. I got past the grieving period.
Oh, you're divorcing.
I'm divorced, same thing. Now, when I'm looking at this, 2 reasons people get divorced: lack of communication. I kind of understood this one, but number 2, you said money.
Yeah, arguing.
Wow.
It's arguing, and then the primary reason for arguing is usually over finances. Yes.
So when I'm looking at arguing over finances, how critical is it if we have young, I know you have daughters, I do too. How critical is it to tell our daughters, hey, listen, I really need you to understand what's going on here and that you need to have common ground with your betrothed, right,
Nice.
on money.
Yes, there needs to be so many more workshops, I think, on this. But everybody tends to have their own financial personality. And so what we don't seem to understand is when we come together with someone, whether that's remarriage, marrying, cohabitating, whatever it is, they have their own financial personality, and they've learned from their parents, because we're usually a result of what we've learned from our parents, just as you mentioned. But when you bring those two together, you need to start communicating. You need to understand who's the saver, who's the spender. Are you both spenders? You might be in trouble. Are you both savers? You need to understand and appreciate that.
And I think that's a upfront issue, right?
Absolutely.
So as the moment I start having feelings, it's time to start talking money.
Kind of, yeah, I would think
Well,
so.
I think that's right. Now, when we're talking about looking at people with different money, we're looking at different statuses. You know, there's I was married, now I'm single. Now I'm single. Oh, I'm thinking about remarrying. Oh, I don't know about that. I'm going to try to live in a cohabitational state.
Yes.
And remember, this has a lot to do with what state you're in. There could be
Right.
problems. Community property states being one of those possibilities.
Very true.
When you're talking about premarital cohabitation, the stats are not good. I have to say, most of the time, in my 30 years experience, females almost always get the short end of the stick, almost always, especially when we commingle finances.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, women ask me about that all the time. Should I merge? Should we always have the joint accounts and things like that? And again, one size doesn't fit all, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I truly believe to protect yourself, you should always have financial independence and have financial awareness.
Because if we're cohabitating, we have not made any commitments.
No.
And if we haven't made any commitments, why would finances not be under
Right.
that I haven't made any commitment?
Right. Well, you've committed to each other, obviously, in a relationship, but not the future. You haven't committed to that future, and that can get very complicated if you're not careful.
Now, I've heard you talk about this, and other women who are advisors, they are very much into complete segregated accounts. And even though we're not in prenuptial land yet,
Right.
we still might want to have an agreement already in writing. Won't cost you a lot. Even if you don't want to spend the money, LegalZoom could be an option,
Right.
where you would go out and get this done right up front.
Yes, I agree with that. You need to protect yourself. Yes, you need to understand and keep things in your name and keep credit cards and things like that. You need to have that financial independence.
Okay, so we're not trying to make a moral judgment on cohabitation.
No.
We're making a financial judgment on cohabitation.
Right, absolutely.
Which is a very big distinction because
It's a fine line.
It's
Yeah.
protection. This is about protection. Again, in my 30-year career, I've seen almost always cohabitation, female always gets the short end of the financial stick. Now, when we're talking about the difference, so we're saying on this show, we don't believe in merging our assets.
Yeah,
Really? I mean, we're basically making a call here.
Again, yeah, one size doesn't fit all. Maybe it does make sense to have a joint account where you share some of the bills, but you definitely do need to keep some things separate.
I'm thinking of your first part when you said, I'm a saver, he's a spender,
or
right?
vice versa,
Or
but women
vice versa.
tend to be, reserve.
And especially the more polaristic or extreme I am on those two areas, it could really be lead to other arguments. If I had divorce based on finance, which you said was the number 2 issue, then that needs to be a major upfront discussion. And even if I have feelings and emotions and I don't see this matching up, I may make a call on not getting into this relationship based solely on my past experience experience, and I don't want to have future problems like I did in the past.
Absolutely, I agree.
Well, when we're talking about it, let's about tax reasons for not getting married. I thought there were tax reasons for getting married.
Right. Well, yeah, right. There's both. So if you're living with someone and you have children in the home, so now you have a blended family, like myself, I was cohabitating and I had children. And I was able to file head of household at the time. And so when we started discussing and looking at our future, and we started thinking about getting married filing jointly, I was going to lose the head of household. And it would have pushed our incomes together combined. I took a look at that. Would have pushed us up into a whole nother tax bracket. So for financial reasons, it actually made more sense for myself to stay head of household, receive those credits and deductions, and stay in that lower tax bracket. So sometimes, again, it's the financial decisions there that can be impacted.
Well, I think about how this is going both ways, depending upon your filing status, your actual exemptions, this case, children involved. There's a lot of issues here that we have to talk about. Now, when you're looking at tax reasons, I mean, nobody should be marrying or not marrying over just taxes.
Right.
But this is just another component to the decision-making process, especially if we're talking about finance. Now, there's many laws and benefits that are changing with this lifestyle. I mean, the government's trying to accommodate. I think we're going to go down this road where you're going to see expansion on a lot more than just marriage. It's just like you're going to just be able to pick your beneficiary, married or not. That person's going to get your assets, their hospital visitations, all this thing. I think that's where we're going. Now, talk about domestic partner. What is that? When you're a planner, what does that mean?
It just means with all the changes coming, like you're saying, and things are changing, and a lot more people are cohabitating. There's a lot of employers out there right now where if you're residing in a home with someone, you can actually add them to your medical benefits. So things like that are changing. They're even talking about even more being able to file a joint tax return and not be married. So there's a lot of changes coming because cohabitation is just, I don't want to use popular, but it's out there.
We come back from the break, we're going to continue this whole entire idea. I mean, to me, it's just startling. How do I start over after I went through kind of a catastrophe? We'll be right back after the break. It's not how much money you make for your clients, it's how much money they get to keep, especially in retirement. But retirement income could cause Social Security benefits to be taxed. One tax advantage alternative is life insurance designed as a non-modified endowment contract that can generate tax-free income without taxing Social Security benefits. These contracts offer differing funding options depending upon your client's risk tolerance. For more information on how life insurance can be part of your retirement planning, just email me at steve@downtobusiness.tv. Brought to you by Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to our second segment. Of course, we're with RIA and CFP. Heather Coulter. And Heather, we're going to talk about, we've been talking about cohabitating, and I'm thinking, is life insurance companies okay with this? Are they okay with us doing this?
Yeah, well, actually, you do need to take a look at that. If you're a woman, again, I'm coming from the women's perspective because this is a show about women in finances.
It is.
But if you do reside in a home with someone and you are having a certain lifestyle and you're using his income as much as you're using your own income to have that lifestyle, what happens when he's not your spouse and so he gets unfortunately hit by the angel bus? What happens? Is the house in his name? Are you going to get kicked out into the street because the family is going to kick you out? Is the home in your name, but now you can't afford it because you guys were doing this lifestyle together? So sometimes life insurance is a part of this. You need to think about that
before
to replace
I do
income.
This. Right.
Yeah, to protect you and your family and his. I mean, you could do it on each other again.
Same thing with disability?
Same thing with disability. I mean, it'd be the same thing where sometimes there's some hybrid things out there where you can have the life insurance and maybe a living benefit on there. Where what happens to him if he gets into a Harley accident and now he's disabled and there's no income coming in and you're residing together in a certain lifestyle and you have to take care of him.
That would be another pre-qualification on Steve's part because the guy's driving a motorcycle and he's got gang logo on the background. I'm concerned. Let's go to remarriage though. Let's talk about that. Remarriage now, this is still, believe it or not, we've talked about so much about cohabitation. Remarriage is still popular. So
it is. Let's
talk about remarriage here. I like this because now blended families are pretty much the cup of the tea we're drinking now in our society. His, hers, and ours. Talk about that because this is structured all accounts. Who's the beneficiary? Who's the contingent beneficiary? There's a lot of legal language going on here.
Absolutely. Estate planning is so huge when it comes to this. So you come into the marriage and you have your children. I have my children, and we may even have our own children and start another family. This is very common. So what happens if you cease, and the beneficiaries, you've named me as your beneficiary on everything, and you've gone away prematurely, and everything comes to me. Well, what happens if you haven't done proper estate planning? Everything's going to go to my children when I die. So if I don't change that and make that right because you didn't, you could accidentally disinherit your children.
That would be a huge faux pas on his part. Now, prenups, now, how popular are you? Think how necessary are these now?
Well, unfortunately, they're still necessary. I'm not an attorney, but I feel in the financial world they should be there.
The bulk of most prenups that I've seen, especially in the last decade, because this has really went through the roof, is 80% asset allocation and identification of ownership. That's a huge issue. So prenups really are they're mostly financial.
Right.
They're hardly ever about, hey, what happens if we break up or whatever, we buy things together. Now, when we're talking about, I don't want to disinherit my kids, and nobody wants to do that. So when we have life insurance, because we still, really, if we're dependent on the other person after we just got remarried, we're hoping that we're going to last for the rest of our lives.
Of course.
And we're going to make financial calls, and if we're dual income, no kids, or dual income raising kids, dinks and dirks, whichever that is, it's dual income. And everything's dependent on that. And if I want to stay in that house, I have to indemnify my spouse so that she has a place to stay and that mortgage is done with, so she doesn't have to hassle it.
Absolutely.
Now, this is big issues because we're talking about these things and we're remarriage. So we're talking about what is yours, what is mine, and what is ours. And then prenup, estate planning, especially where is this all going to go? I remember dealing with a client who had a beautiful hutch. It was probably worth $6-7 grand. It hasn't been in the family forever. He died, gave it to his wife, his new wife, who then gave it to her daughter. And the original child was completely nexed out.
You hear that all the time.
Talking about fighting and talking about causing angst. Now, and also not only life insurance, but now long-term care, because here's the deal. I am starting to see this more and more. The odds are the woman is going to outlive her husband most of the time. And I've noticed that remarriages, there seems to be a slight spread for younger women. I've just noticed that. I don't know if that's true. But she's going to be a long time when she's by herself. It could be more than just the normal life expectancy, because if the spread in ages of getting married is 5 years younger, 7 years younger, 10 years younger, that being alone there and needing long-term care assistance is huge.
Right. They need some kind of coverage there, or else they're going to deplete everything in their long-term care needs. And then again, certain things need to go to the other spouse.
In your experience, when you're talking to clients on remarriage, especially women, they haven't put the ring on yet.
Nope.
Are you walking through all these things with them so they have a good idea what they're getting into?
Yes, we're at least having the conversation, at least asking some good questions to make sure they're thinking about it, they're communicating about it.
Are they doing it, though? Are they doing prenups? Are they making their decision on different beneficiaries and ownerships?
I'd say a majority of them are listening to us that are coming, but I know there's a majority out there not asking these questions and not finding a financial advisor to help them through this.
This is all part of it. We started the Tuesday session titling it, Suddenly Single. Today we're talking about, hey, how do I start over with a new money mindset?
New beginnings.
This is what we have to do. And if somebody's saying, Steve, I've went through this before and I should have done exactly this and I didn't. If you're in a pretty good relationship with a guy, you could probably still get him to walk through this. Most people that really see this as fair, it's an issue of fairness. It's an issue of these are prior assets. So I just really exhort you to do that. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Missed an episode? Just hop out to our video archives. And remember, you could be wiser as an educated advisor. I'm Steve Savant, and we'll see you tomorrow.